Let's get the analysis. We're joined by Dr. Philip Catney, Senior Lecturer in Politics at Keele University, up there in Staffordshire, in what we call the Midlands in England, kind of like the middle of the map as you're looking at it there. Dr. Catney, thanks for being with us. In any business, to bring back a person who left under a cloud, walked away from the industry for 7 years, it just wouldn't fly, would it? How's this happening, do you think?
Well, it shocked everybody in one sense, and I think left everybody bemused. Mr. Cameron, as you said, walked away from UK frontline politics in something of a huff from the Brexit vote, but it was also a serious idea that he couldn't lead a government in which the decisions of the people had gone against him. Now, Mr. Cameron's return has sort of stunned the Conservative backbenchers. Many on the right, a couple on the right, have already said they're not happy about this, but more quiet than you'd expect. And I think they're stunned by this. There's a question here about Mr. Sunak in terms of, does he have to reach outside Parliament? Does he have to reach a former leader to provide top-level senior support? Can he not find that in his own parliamentary party? And this is one of the issues which I think will start coming up. There are, as your correspondent mentioned, there are constitutional questions. As he mentioned, Lord Carrington did this in the 1980s. It wasn't a problem. Prime Ministers have served as Foreign Secretary. Alec Douglas-Home back in the 1970s. So it's not constitutionally unusual, but politically, it seems like a strange move from Mr. Sunak to call in an elder statesman to come in and steady the cabinet, which he's obviously finding hard to control. He certainly found the Home Secretary, Interior Minister, Suella Braverman, incredibly hard to control to the point where he had to sack her. So he's obviously having to rely on some authority figure coming in from outside to steady the ship. And this has been done before. It was done by Gordon Brown when he brought in Lord Mandelson, who'd been in the European Commission, brought him back in to be a senior minister in his failing government. So it certainly is an unusual move to bring somebody back who was quite controversial and had a fairly controversial afterlife from politics, with something of a scandal around financial dealings of a company that he was involved with, or he was associated with the owner of a company, and it was alleged to be lobbying government on this. That certainly has tarnished his reputation, and it does lead questions about why Mr. Sunak wants back. It's fully clear why Mr. Cameron wants to come back into frontline politics to try and restore his reputation, but it's not clear what he's really offering to Mr. Sunak.
Indeed, that idea, authoritative figure, in inverted commas, of course, I could almost hear you saying as you said it. There's been one call for Sunak to resign from Dame Andrea Jenkins. One can imagine that within the factions within the Conservative Party, those 5 important groups which the press never really talk about it. They talk about the Labour Party being split with its various tendencies, but they never talk about that in the Tory Party for some reason. These groups are all split in what they want. Jacob Rees-Mogg playing a big role in that too, basically saying, sort of Suella Braverman was correct. She shouldn't have been sacked. Dame Andrea Jenkins calling for Sunak to go. She's actually written a letter of no confidence about that. Cameron can't pull all this back together, can he? Surely it needs more than just one person with a questionable track record.
Yes, and to be honest, when you look at the Conservative Eurosceptics, they already had suspicions about Mr. Sunak, who was an ardent Brexiteer and was a committed Brexiteer from when he joined Parliament before Brexit. They feel he's selling Brexit short somehow. And bringing Mr. Cameron back is hardly going to scotch those kind of questions about his sincerity behind delivering what many Brexiteers have gone for. Now, I think the point to remember is Mr. Cameron was the leader of the Conservative Party. He did win them a general election in 2015 with a majority. But the party has changed a lot since he went. Many of the people in the Conservative Party, more moderate, more Europhile tendency, were thrown out by Mr. Johnson. So this is not the same Conservative Party that he left the Commons in 2016 left behind. So it's not clear to me that he's going to have any kind of credibility on the Conservative backbenches. Andrea Jenkins is a noisy MP and she makes lots of statements. She's quite open about her contempt for authority inside the Conservative Party. But as you say, there are other factions of the Conservative Party who are not necessarily totally committed to Mr. Cameron's previous agenda. Mr. Johnson, for example, part of his allure for the voters was his talk about levelling up, restoring state capacity, not having any more austerity, which is very much the kind of agenda which was associated with Mr. Cameron. So there's all sorts of ways in which Mr. Cameron is perhaps an unwelcome reminder of what the Conservatives have done in the past. And let's bear in mind, Mr. Sunak's conference speech last month was talking about how we needed to get away from 30 years of failed political consensus. Well, Mr. Cameron's a key part of that. So again, there's all sorts of strange logics in this. It's eye-catching. It certainly makes us remember this reshuffle, but it's one of the slightly more bizarre twists that we've seen in UK politics since the implosion of the Truss government. And I certainly do wonder precisely what Mr. Cameron's going to offer that Mr. Sunak couldn't do himself, and how this actually undermines Mr. Sunak's own authority, that he needs a big brother to come in and help him sort out a troublesome cabinet. It might actually blow back at him and look like he's actually weaker than perhaps he already is at the moment. But as you said, there's already threats of letters of no confidence going into the backbench committee that represents Tory MPs, 1922 committee. It's thought there's about 25, 26 have gone in. There needs to be about 53 to trigger another leadership ballot inside UK politics. I don't think we're at that point yet, but who knows? Anything could happen in British politics at the moment.
Indeed. So Graham Brady will have a busy time with his correspondence. Dr. Philip Catney from Keele University. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your take on the reshuffle, which sees David Cameron, Lord Cameron, no less, appointed as the new Foreign Secretary of the UK. Thank you, Dr. Catney, once again.